Let's take a moment to talk about another difficult subject in singing, and that's the passaggio. Passaggio is the Italian word for passage, and it's where we pass from our lower or chest voice to our higher or head voice. If we haven't trained our voice much, the difference between our chest and head voice will be very apparent. That's our passaggio working against us. There are two different ways to describe the passaggio. One can be described as a muscular event, because the muscles that are stretching your vocal cords change from one to another, and that could create this difference of sound. The other is an acoustical event. I'll post more details in the resources if you want to learn more about this acoustical event. But basically what it means is that one of the harmonics in your voice, we have many harmonics in our voice, and one of them are passing over your second formant, or second set of notes that are emphasized by the vocal tract. When you go up in a scale, the harmonics above that note are doubling and tripling and zooming up. And so this harmonic here will soon pass that second formant. And when it does, that's what creates this change in quality. Where this event happens depends on a lot of things. It depends on your voice type. It also depends on what vowel you're singing, because different vowels will raise and lower that second formant. The passaggio can occur anywhere from the A below middle C, especially if you are a really deep bass, it could be even lower. And it'll go up to around an A above that, the A above the middle C, for higher sopranos, and even a bit higher if you have a really high and light voice. Though we talked about how there are many elements that affect where your passaggio is, it'll be very obvious when you switch from this strong lower chest voice to this lighter higher voice. A way you can find your passaggio is starting from a lower point in your range and kind of flipping up to a higher place, like this. Ah, 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 ah. You hear that flip? Ah, 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 from that lighter to that heavier voice. You can try to locate where that flip is. Ah, 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 ah. It's right around there where it starts to flip. And that's where the passaggio is causing that change from the lighter to heavier voice. The idea is we want to smooth out this transition so our voice below sounds similar to our voice above. The best way that we can do this is by lightening that heavier voice that's under the passaggio and trying to strengthen that voice that's above it, so when they meet there's more of a blend. This can be achieved by lightening up your sound when you're lower, but also by lightening your breath as you go up. We'll talk about this a lot in the practical exercises, but when you go up, say here, which will be through my passaggio for me, I'm lightening up my breath a bit as I go up. You'll almost feel a back and up type of feeling. And then when you go back down, you kind of land it like a plane instead of thumping down. Doing these type of exercises, as we'll focus a bunch in the B exercises in our vocal warm-ups, will help you smoothen that transition. And once you smooth that transition, you will be able to exert less energy to get more sound, and you make your sound more uniform throughout. Eventually, we want to get to the point where we don't even need to think about our passaggio, because the more we think about it and the more we tense up around the area, the more distinct it'll sound and the more tired we'll make our voices. So as we do these exercises, notice where your voice changes in that range. It might be difficult at first, that's okay. Just make sure you don't overwork that range because it can get you very tired. And eventually, if you practice it in that lighter way, you'll be able to make it smoother and smoother until it's not even much of a problem for you. This was the last section of the vocal pyramid. Congrats on getting to the end. Remember to keep reviewing each level of the pyramid, as we learn so many new concepts in a very little bit of time. You can always go back over your notes, or even go back to the previous levels of the pyramid to really grasp these concepts. The more you grasp these 6 concepts, the better you'll be able to stand back and look at this pyramid as a whole, and therefore your voice as a whole. We will also constantly reference the levels of the pyramid in part 2 with the exercises, so you can bring what you learned to a practical application. When you're ready, let's meet in part 2 and work on finding your best daily warm-up.